This is the largest cemetery in Poland. Here are the remains of well over 100,000 people, a large amount of whom were murdered in the first days of August 1944. Today we can walk through this park and see the names of tens of thousands of people who were killed during the Warsaw Uprising. The person most associated with this mass murder is Oskar Paul Dirlewanger and the gang of renegade drunken criminals he commanded. To give an overview of the career of Dirlewanger, I would like to initially quote author Knut Stang. Stang wrote, "He combined an amoral personality additionally shattered by alcoholism and a sadistic sexual disposition, the frontline experience of the First World War, intoxicating violence and barbarization, the personally unsuccessful and frustrating years of peace, and a political leadership that not only tolerated unscrupulous terror warfare, but made it a method." On the other hand, I need to point out that Dirlewanger was also an admired and charismatic leader. In this video, or rather series of videos, I cannot answer how this is possible, but I can give you the facts relating to his life in chronological order. Dirlewanger was born on the 26th of September 1895 in Würzburg. His father was a business person who settled with his family here in Esslingen am Neckar in 1906. He attended school in Esslingen until 1913. On the 1st of October 1913, Dirlewanger joined the machine gun company of the Grenadier Regiment King Karl, which was the 5th Württemberg, number 123. The unit was part of the Württemberg Army, and Dirlewanger joined as a one-year volunteer. During the Second Reich, the different countries which made up the German Empire still had their own armies. Joining the army in 1913 was a case of bad timing. The following year, World War I broke out, and Dirlewanger took part in the invasion of Belgium and France with his unit. He must have fought bravely as he was wounded several times, so much so that he was categorized as being 40% disabled after an injury to his arm, which he got in hand-to-hand combat in September 1915. Despite the injury, which meant that he could not use his arm at all for some time, he returned to the front as a lieutenant in 1917 and took over an assault and machine gun company. Dirlewanger received both classes of the Iron Cross and the Golden Military Merit Medal. When Romania entered the war and attacked Germany's ally Austro-Hungary, German units were transferred to the Romanian front. This included the 2nd Machine Gun Company of the Infantry Regiment Alt-Württemberg, the 3rd Württemberg number 121, where Dirlewanger served as a lieutenant. After Romania was knocked out of the war, Dirlewanger stayed on in the Eastern Front. In November 1918, he was part of the occupation force in what had formerly been Tsarist Russia. Rather than surrender, he marched 600 troops directly back to Germany so that they avoided internment. 14 years later, in 1932, with the Nazi Party now riding high in the polls, a press article mentioned this feat. There can be little doubt that Dirlewanger was an admired military leader who must have had a great deal of charisma and personality, particularly given his young age. He was only 23 and also his relatively low rank. The Eastern Front may have been where Dirlewanger, amongst many others, developed a racist perception of the enemy and the native population. This in turn contributed to the strengthening of social Darwinist feelings of superiority. This image of the East, prepared and shaped by a culture carrier theory, was transferred by reactionary forces to the target groups of the Freikorps missions during the Weimar Republic, then short-circuited with the term subhuman, usually aimed at Slavs, and spread based on the fear of Jewish Bolshevism stoked by National Socialist propaganda. It is this which leads to the conspiracy theories which Hitler promulgated. Like many men of his age, Dirlewanger did not accept defeat. He joined various nationalist Freikorps and fought against the communists and separatists in 1920 as a commander of an armoured train in Württemberg, then the Ruhr area, then Saxony, then Thuringia. In the spring of 1921, he found himself in Upper Silesia fighting against Polish separatists. During a mission with the Freikorps Holz in that year, he was wounded yet again, this time by a shot in the head which put an end to his career in the paramilitary units. Dirlewanger looked to further his education and started a course in economics at the Mannheim Business School. He was expelled in 1921 because of anti-Semitic agitation. This did not discourage him, and he continued his studies in Frankfurt am Main, where he received his doctorate in political science in 1922. In his doctoral thesis, he dealt with questions of a nationalist planned economy in the event of a future war. He discussed the need to avoid supply crises which had occurred during the First World War. Coincidentally, other National Socialist economists thought along similar lines, and indeed the supply of foodstuffs in Germany was more plentiful in World War II than it had been in World War I, although this was at the cost of causing mass starvation throughout occupied Europe, from Greece to the Soviet Union. In 1928 he was employed as managing director of an Erfurt textile company, Körnecke, which belonged to a Jewish family. He stole money from the company and defrauded it in other ways, and after 3 years he was forced to leave. After being fired, he went into business for himself as a tax consultant until July 1933. It will come as no surprise that Dirlewanger had been involved in right-wing politics since the war. In 1919 he joined the German National Protection and Defence League, the Deutsche Völkische Schutz- und Trutzbund (DVSTB). On the 1st of October 1922, Dirlewanger joined the National Socialist German Workers' Party. He was not in Munich to participate in the putsch. Following the attempt to seize power on the 9th of November 1923, the Nazi Party was banned. It was legalised again in 1925. Many rejoined the party, but not Dirlewanger. He did not rejoin until the 1st of May 1932, membership number 1098716. Dirlewanger was also an SA man in the first Sturmband of the 122nd SA Standard. After an attack on the Esslingen Trade Union building by the Sturmband, he was tried in December 1932 for breach of the peace. That year, he was given a position as a full-time SA leader in Esslingen am Neckar. This is the city of Heilbronn. It's a modern city, but a city that clearly bears the marks of having been quickly rebuilt after the National Socialist War, which led to its destruction. In 1933, when Dirlewanger came here, it was a city of half-timbered houses built by prosperous wine merchants. As someone who had been in the German Nationalist Protection and Defence League, the forerunner of the NSDAP in 1919, and as someone who had joined the party in 1922, Dirlewanger was an old fighter. Owing to the corrupt nature of Nazi politics, this meant a good job with a good salary, irrespective if the employee could do the job or not. In Dirlewanger's case, this meant a job in the employment office in Heilbronn, where he first became head of department and later deputy director. Dirlewanger might have got his job thanks to corruption, but given his education, he might have been more competent than many others who got similar jobs in the administration. He complained about other old fighters whom he accused of lacking qualifications for the jobs they'd been given. Maybe this was due to jealousy, however, it did lead to internal SA disciplinary proceedings. As a result of the proceedings, several criminal charges against Dirlewanger that had previously been suppressed were investigated. On the 21st of September 1934, he was sentenced by the Heilbronn Regional Court to 2 years in prison for the rape of a 13-year-old girl and for molesting underage girls. As a result, he lost his position, his doctorate and all military awards. After being released from 2 years in prison in Ludwigsburg, he was brought to trial again in 1936 for the money embezzled in the Erfurt textile factory and was subsequently sentenced in Heilbronn on the 12th of October 1936. He was then placed in the Weltsheim protective custody camp, but he was soon able to leave after the intervention of his friend, the later SS Obergruppenführer and head of the SS main office, Gottlob Berger. Berger and Dirlewanger went way back. They were in the same regiment during World War I and had possibly been in the Freikorps together. They also had something else in common. They hated the Württemberg Gauleiter Wilhelm Mohr. On regaining his freedom, Dirlewanger had an employment problem. With his record, he wasn't going to get a job organised for him by the party, and no one in private business was likely to want him either. So, at the age of 41, he went back to doing something he was qualified to do. He joined the military. Not the German army, he probably wouldn't have been permitted to join. The nationalist Spanish army, the army of General Franco, which had revolted against the democratically elected government of Spain. The fact that he was a child rapist would be no problem for Franco, and it wasn't. He joined as a foreign legionnaire but was later able to join the Condor Legion, which was assisting Franco. This transfer to the Condor Legion was no doubt thanks to the intervention of his friend from the old days, Gottlob Berger. The Spanish Civil War allowed Dirlewanger to make new contacts within the Nazi elite, so much so that by now, with the legal system completely controlled by the party, he managed to get his case reopened before the Stuttgart Regional Court. In the course of his retrial, he was acquitted on the 30th of April 1940 for lack of evidence, despite still not insignificant grounds for suspicion, as the judgment summarised. The original verdict was overturned. At the instigation of the Reich Ministry of Education, Dirlewanger also got his doctorate back. In May 1940, Dirlewanger was again deemed fit for military service and, at Berger's suggestion and with years of military experience, he was accepted into the Waffen-SS, SS number 357267. He was given the rank of Obersturmführer, the equivalent of Oberleutnant in the Wehrmacht, or senior lieutenant. I know that rank doesn't exist, but I don't know any other way of translating it. In part 2, we shall see how Oskar Dirlewanger used this rank in the service of the National Socialist Party and in its war against what it deemed to be its racial enemies.